A wide range of issues, from oil, gas, local issues as well, questions of human rights and democracy. And then they decided to spread their work to young people, and they initiated a youth political education project called SHAKE, which has been going now for about 1.5 years. And that's how we got together with Samia and Selena, and today Kadish is with us as well. I'll introduce them properly in a moment. SHAKE, its tagline is young voices around race, media, arts and power. And what we did to start this project was have a week-long course at the Stephen Lawrence Centre, inspired by the stories of Stephen Lawrence and Ken Saro-Wiwa, the executed Nigerian activist who took on Shell in the 1990s. And it struck us that the kind of themes that were raised by that very much connect to the kind of themes that were raised by the events in August of this year. The events commonly referred to as the riots, although we've put that in quotation marks because some people don't think that's quite the right way of putting it. I'm just going to show you a little video about SHAKE so you have an idea of where this has come from, and then I'll introduce the rest of the panel, and then we'll kick off with you, in fact. So. This is Kadish Morris. Kadish is a poet from Leeds. She's involved with Leeds Young Authors. She recently graduated from Goldsmiths, London College of Communication, learning about political journalism and creative writing. Yeah. She is the creator and editor of Junk Food magazine, which is a politically motivated arts publication. She writes and contributes to other media platforms such as Scent magazine, Shone in 1883. Selena is another poet and writer. She's the creator of a project called Britain on Trial, which is about using arts and other media to explore injustices in Britain. And she co-edits Women's Views on News. And Samia, Samia is at Cambridge University at the moment, just starting her second year. She's been involved with the Islamic Society there, Stop the War campaigning, and she's contributed to the website New Left Project, which is something that I'm involved with as well. I edit that website. And lastly, Simon, my co-facilitator today. Simon runs Licorice Fish. That's his company which promotes artist and activist engagement. It's a designs and promotions company. He was in advertising, but that was a long time ago. He's been clean now for about 12 years. He's a poet and a writer, and he met Kadish through Leeds Young Authors because he's the communications director of that. Okay, so into this. There are a huge number of you, and we want to try and hear from a lot of you today. I think we're going to struggle to hear from everybody. What we want to start with is if you can tell us some of the phrases and words which were regularly used in your perception, from your experience, by the media during and after and about the August riots. I'll give you 30 seconds or so just to reflect on that, and then we're going to take some hands. We're going to write things down, and then we're going to use that to lead into our panel, who are going to respond to the things that you're saying. You have a chance, but shortly afterwards, to talk yourselves about what you think they should have said, but let's start with what they did say. So, what were the phrases, what were the words, what did the media keep going on about, what leapt into our minds in that time, okay? So just give, okay, right, go on then, yeah.
And youth, we wanted.
Youth, absolutely, yeah.
Sheer thuggery.
Hmm?
Sheer thuggery.
Sheer thuggery, I remember that one, yeah.
Feral underclass.
Feral underclass, I remember that one as well. Rats.
Criminality.
Criminality. Them. Yes.
Scum.
Scum again.
Mindless thugs.
Mindless thugs.
Anarchy.
Anarchy. Is everybody okay? We've had yes, hello. Responsibility.
Not political.
Not political.
And so frustration is people use it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
It's also been used as a synonym for good or permissible.
Yes.
Context.
Gangs. Outsiders.
Outsiders. Any more women have any thoughts on this?
Blackberry.
Blackberry.
Came up a lot. Like,
Yeah, that's a word we had plenty. Yes.
Black.
Black.
Yeah.
Gangs.
Not berry so much. Huh?
Gangs.
Gangs.
Softly.
Softly.
This is the police approach.
Right. Yeah. Hello.
Chavs.
Chavs.
Single mothers.
Single mothers.
I guess Birmingham race war.
Birmingham race war. Okay.
Evil.
Evil. Five more.
Fatherless.
If we can get there. Otherwise, we'll move on. Fatherless.
Flat screen TV.
Flat screen TV.
Morally inclined.
Opportunist.
Opportunist.
Looting.
Looting. Well done. Okay, brilliant. Right. So that's what the media. Ratimi.
Yes.
Welcome. And this is our last panel member. This is Ratimi, and he's specially been flown in from Canterbury this morning. Right. So Ratimi, up here on the screen, we've got a bunch of words that our audience experience the media saying regularly.
What
Right?
about us?
Huh?
What?
You haven't said anything yet.
Nope.
No. Right. And so now, you four, it's over to you as the young people that these people have come to hear from. Was this your experience? And how does it relate to
Feral.
anything that you experienced of the riots? I mean, Ratimi, do you want to kick us off by talking about your own personal experience of things? What happened?
Oh, during the riots, I don't know what the media saw, the TV saw, but what I saw on the road, I saw big men, big women, Asian, black, white. Actually, I just saw everyone. So it was just, when they say like, oh, it's just a certain group of people, I didn't really notice that. Everyone I saw was just mostly like, age differences. I saw people with actually kids walking, to Jiggy Sports and trying on shoes with the kids itself. So it's just a mixed diverse of people that you saw on the road.
Where did you see this?
I saw this in Catford, I saw this in Peckham. I was in Peckham when people were going to Brixton, so I can actually see people walking through my areas, walking all the way to like Brixton and whatnot. But nah, man, it's not. The media made it sound like it's just one group of people and it's like a certain type of group of people who do certain things. But what I saw like diverse. It's just everyone. People I didn't really thought like. I even saw Old Navy marching on there one time, innit? Just saw like a random range of people up there.
Kadish, can you just talk to us initially about your own personal experience? What you saw, what you know of, people who you know who may have been connected in any way?
Well, I live in Wood Green, so I was sort of right near where it happened on the Saturday. And I was very unaware of it. I literally lived like 5 minutes away from Wood Green High Street, but I did not hear anything. I wasn't watching the news, so I guess that's why. And then the minute I turned it on, I actually came at it through Twitter, and Twitter was just going crazy with like these riots, and I was like, what the hell? And I actually went up to my high street that day. I saw the aftermath of it, and it was just smashed windows, just like police, roads were blocked, and it was just spreading like wildfire. And I was just literally trying to keep track of where it was happening. It was going like this, and it was veering to south, and then to other places. And I'm from Leeds, so there was a bit of stuff happening in Leeds, not a lot, nothing like what's happening in Manchester or Birmingham. And I know a few people who knew, or people who were trying to start stuff, trying to set things on fire and that type of thing. But it was the media really that I felt, I won't say caused it, but the media's got a strong power, and people hearing it through the media, hearing all these criminals doing things. I heard a lot of opportunists, like someone pointed out, but I don't think a million people just wake up and want to be criminals. You know what I mean? It's something that caused that, and I think that the media were trying to take away from that and trying to treat these people as if they were animals. And if thousands of young people decide to burn something, that's not because they wake up and to decide today I'm going to go break the law. It's a bigger point than that, and I think that's something that they didn't touch on enough.
Selena?
Well, I'm in Elephant and Castle, and it wasn't really shown in the news, but there was a bit of kerfuffle in the area. But again, I don't feel like with the actual event itself I connected with it because I was inside anyway. But again, I was following Twitter and I was following the news, and so that was my first source of information. And so the information that I got from the news, I felt was different to then what I learned afterwards from speaking to people and from actually going out into the area. And I think that in the news, and particularly with young people, there's been vilification of young people, which I think is kind of ironically an immature analysis to the event, because, you know, as you're saying, I think it stems much deeper, and it's not an analysis that I've heard on a regular basis from the mainstream media.
Sammy, do you want to give us an initial contribution?
Yeah, I too was away from the actions when they happened. I was at home. I live in North West London, and my local area wasn't affected very much. But there is one thing, because on the day itself I refused to watch BBC or Sky News, just because I thought that they take a tactic every time something happens to create fear, and that was the last thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to be scared, and I knew that in reality there was no reason for me to be scared. I follow Twitter and Facebook like most people, and it seemed really quite incredible how quickly it was spreading, how many people were getting involved, and Twitter was going crazy. I don't usually use Twitter, but I couldn't shut it on that night just because I wanted to know what was going on. I do remember the next day, or was it the day after, I was out visiting a friend, and in the morning she texted me asking me if I wanted to cancel my plans in case something kicked off during the day. But obviously I was like, no, don't be stupid, we'll be fine. And it was absolutely fine. I came back, and my local area, the town centre, not the town centre, the shopping centre, so I'm thinking, was closed. There were police everywhere, and all the shops were shut 3 hours earlier, and nothing happened. So that, again, was fear. I mean, I was getting calls from my friends that lived nearby asking me if I was out. My parents were like, what's going on, what's going on? And obviously I was completely calm, I knew nothing would happen. And I was right, nothing did happen, nothing kicked off, nobody was hurt. But I think it's all about trying to make people scared, because then a lot of people I know were scared, and that then led them to take quite an authoritarian approach to it, because they wanted to protect themselves, their families and their property, when in reality I think they need protection from the people at the top of society also.
Before we pass it back over to them, is there anything any of you want to say further at this point? Anything else about your personal experience that's come to mind?
Well, I remember during the riots, I mean, it was on newspapers, it was on TV, it was everywhere, and I think everyone in England knew about it. And I remember during that period I was like doing a lot of jogging, so I was going out in like my tracksuits and my hood, and me and my boyfriend were going running, and I was getting looks, and I was calling it the looters look, because I was getting these looks that were like, you know what I mean, and I was getting these looks, and I was saying to my boyfriend, why are people looking at me? And it was happening a lot, and I was maybe jogging for about 4 days during the that happened on the Sunday, so maybe from the Sunday to the to the Wednesday, and I was getting these looks, and I felt it just caused this fear, like what Sammy was talking about, this fear where everyone was sort of a suspect, especially if you were young and if you were coloured. So that's the wrong word, brown. Do you know what I mean? But in that sense, do you know what I'm saying? Like you was getting looks, and I felt that, and obviously I've never committed any crime, but you was automatically being like condemned, and I think that was sort of something that my personal experience was happening a lot.
I think another thing I noticed during the couple of days there, I don't know if anyone noticed this, but obviously I'll be walking on the road and whatnot. And normally, just how London is, if I really see a person, you wouldn't really look them in the face or whatnot, you just walk by. And it's like you don't really, it's like not really communication or smiling. But during those 4 days, when I saw people, not if you see like a batch of people, that you know when you just across the road and whatnot. But I'll be walking by, they all say cool and want to hug me and whatnot, talk to me, but actually saying good morning or good afternoon, good evening and whatnot, getting to know you. And these times normally, if it wasn't that situation wasn't there, a lot of people just see you and walk by. It's not like, I don't know, people saying during the Riots there's a lot of fear, but I don't know, I just saw a lot of love on the road, if you know what I mean. A lot of guys who just know, you wouldn't see normal people normally and they'll just be saying safe, bruv, or whatnot. Guys from Brixton will come in Peckham, and normally if they came Peckham, it's like, oh, beef's gonna kick off. But for them to come to my area and whatnot, and they're talking to us saying, oh, did you hear about this, did you hear about that? It's getting quite peak right now and stuff like that. I don't know, I just felt like the love in them for a couple of 4 days. Obviously the media was broadcasting that there was a bit of hate on the streets, but I didn't really see that, probably from my point of view, if you know what I mean.
Great, thanks guys. Okay, Simon, do you want to introduce this? Yeah. We're going to try using this again, so let's see.
So the Shake teaser, if you want to watch it in your own time, I won't try it again. That's the address, voices@shakeblogspot.com. We will have a website soon. And just following on from some things that Sammy has said, obviously she didn't watch Sky News, but I was in the John Pilger and Greg Philo and Matt Curtis talk yesterday, so this is uploaded on Voices at Shake channel, and in there there's a question asked about the UK riots, and they discuss the UK riots in depth. So that's there for people to watch. But one thing that was mentioned was this video which Sky News screened, and Greg Philo was explaining that they got in a lot of trouble for screening for this interview, and it was actually wiped off their website, and there were a few complaints because what happened is they actually let the young people speak for themselves and ask them questions why this is happening, which was very rare. I think Greg Philo was saying there was no, that didn't happen at all on the BBC News. There was no interaction with the young people. The conference yesterday was all about war reporting, so the parallel was that there's definitely a them and us situation. So these people on the streets with them, they're evil, they're bad. So we're not allowed to understand what they do.
Can we just see what it's called, that clip?
Yeah, so.
Website or?
Yeah, it's called. There's a number of videos that the original edited Sky video is still up there. That's called Sky Speaks to Looters, and then there's a bigger version, unedited, called Looters.
And are we going to watch a little bit of that?
We're just going to watch a little bit of this. So the first bit, this should hopefully be loaded up. Interesting, but just close on this last clip.
The street. And they say it's not political.
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. Now, since we're here at the Rebellious Media Conference, I think that you will have a pretty strong idea of what's wrong with that and how media could have been different. So the next thing we're going to do is, and I think you should spend a minute or so talking about this with somebody, preferably somebody you don't know. If we had an honest media, and if we had a truthful media, what would it have been saying? What should we, if we look at these phrases up here, those are the words we heard all the time. What are some of the things that we should have heard? And we'll whack some of it on the board again, and then we'll talk about it together. Okay? So spend a minute thinking about that, talking to somebody, because we're not going to hear from everyone. So I think it's important that you talk to someone if you're not going to talk to all of us. What should the media have been saying? What should we have heard?
Because initially they're just trying to
Um,
I think there should have been like a two-pronged approach, sort of like asking sociologists, anthropologists and people that sort of can explain the motivations behind these things. And then also just more stuff like that, asking the people that actually were there and like why they were doing it, ask for their sort of part in it.
Great, thank you very much. Si, did you get that?
Sorry.
Sorry. Shrunken form of what you just said?
You should be asking two sets of people, like sociologists and anthropologists, and then the people that were there.
Okay, we should have heard more from the people who were there. We should have heard more from sociologists and anthropologists. Thank you. Yes?
A phrase or a word that should have been used more is capitalism.
Capitalism. Not there very often, was it? No, I don't remember that. Yes?
More analysis.
Analysis. Anything specific?
Analysis of the thoughts behind the people who did it, I suppose.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Why was it happening in particular boroughs and not others?
Right, so the complexities of it, the variations, rather than lumping everything all as one. That's come up repeatedly in the discussions I've had with people. Yeah.
Why people might be so keen to acquire products.
Okay, asking that question. Right, good, thank you. So it's back to a man now.
Revolts.
Revolts was a word, rather than riots. Thank you. Yeah.
Powerlessness.
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 And despair.
Why they chose some shops and not others?
Okay, what explains those choices? At the back there. Police brutality.
Discrimination, racism.
Discrimination and racism.
Where were the police?
Where were the police?
What about before as well, like stop and search and...
Okay. Great, thank you. Let's take about 4 more, and then we will talk about these things. Okay, so you have a chance for more extended contributions. So 2 more women and 2 more men, and I'm sorry that there are so many of you who want to speak who won't be able to. Yeah.
Should have had a word like reactionary, something to do with the cuts.
Reactionary cuts. Thank you. Yeah.
There's no kind of sense of, remember when we did that 20 years ago? The poll tax riots?
Right.
A phrase that I would really like to extend, and it pulls a few of those together, is revolt against the constraints of capitalism, because that is, for me, exactly what it was. Just children that have been brought up in that capitalist culture, revolting against it.
Thank you. And lastly, yeah, in the yellow.
I think autonomy and agency and counteract this idea of mindlessness. So autonomy and agency.
Great, thank you. Okay, to the extent that they did, we'll do that for about 10 minutes or so. We've got a bit more to come from here.
Just introduce a new panel member.
And then we'll go back to a broader audience discussion. Zena Edwards, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Zena Edwards. I wasn't actually supposed to be on the panel, but I've worked with Selena and Samia, and Ro at the end. Yeah, I'm just interested in being a part of the panel, so thank you for having me come on.
Zena is a musician and a poet and an activist herself. Okay, so yeah, responses to the media on the riots and the causes of the riots. Open season, yeah.
I suppose the difference between immediate causes and wider systemic causes, so it's very easy for the media to kind of focus on immediate causes. So, I mean, an obvious one is if the police had clamped down hard at the beginning, there would probably not have been what happened. But that seems to kind of miss the point, because it avoids kind of focusing on the wider issue of why would this happen even if the police weren't there.
Thank you.
Given that they happened, those young people should not have had their faces covered. They should have actually filmed, they should have actually done the recording of them talking about whatever they were going to be talking about on audio, and then shot them playing football, walking in the park, doing something, but have them standing there with their faces covered, reinforced the whole image of all the negative words that were coming out. And if they'd done them in a creative way, there are lots and lots of ways in which you can film people without having to reveal their faces.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes. And the front.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, sorry.
Yeah.
Just touching back on what you said, I've forgotten your name. About the fact that for me, the riots became a black issue, and the diversity of rioters in terms of age and race and gender became lost, and what happened was that it was black young men who were demonised. And what I would like to have seen the media doing is actually showing in the interviews that they had it being representative of who actually did riot.
Well, I went from that people saw in Bristol, but a lot of young women out as well. It was actually very
There was one other moment when the media, that I'm aware of, when the media kind of just gave a little glimmer of insight. The Evening Standard did a piece like that, similarly, but obviously in print form, where they spoke to some young people who had a very different narrative, which is actually in itself quite interesting. The young people who the Evening Standard spoke to were much more sort of like, the police had been giving us a really hard time, the police then went and overstepped their mark-up in Tottenham, it was payback time. And they kind of resented the fact that some other people then kind of got involved in looting. Now, the point about that is that actually, to have only had one little glimmer that a lot of people get to see, namely that Sky piece, actually gives a very kind of myopic impression, that as if it was all black young men who were all looting, when in fact the reality was probably, as others are saying, all sorts of different people riding for different reasons, doing different things for different reasons, and that actually that diversity of why it happened is actually one of the things that got lost.
I think we haven't mentioned Mark Duggan, and I mean it did, you know, it was I think it kind of was a bit of a there was massive tension in the youth kind of community anyway, which has been building up. I mean, I work with young people, so I feel like it's been building up, and this was like a kind of pressure cooker that this wasn't, you know, an incident that happened, and that then it kind of like, you know, it was just a kind of excuse maybe, but it was an important issue. I know Time Out did a kind of, you know, I worked with Time Out, making sure that they had a kind of balanced reporting, and we did speak to some young people that were involved, and they did say that actually they didn't have to kill Mark Duggan in the middle of the street in Tottenham. You know, it was, and it kind of, I think that kind of sparked off a lot of fear for young people who are fearful of where they're placed in London.
Thank you.
The way in which the riots were presented as being like something which was like homogenous, so it was the riots, there was one set of riots, and everybody's motives were exactly the same, whereas I think there was many, many different motives behind the different riots which occurred around different parts of the country. However, the root causes that the system that people are living under explain a lot of the motivations, whether it's police brutality, or the ageism that a lot of people are experiencing, or the kind of consumer society we're living in, or the reaction to the cuts, or whatever it might be. Many, many different motivations for people all over the country. That wasn't really represented at all. But the root causes of all of those things are undoubtedly this economic system that we're living in.
Thank you.
But there was a general problem with sort of very rich middle-aged white men being the people that were consulted about the riots. And I mean, I went all the way to the United States, and CNN had two examples of these men who were then saying that this could have nothing to do with cuts because no cuts had happened. And these were people who had probably never spoken to a poor person in their lives.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, there's a pre-history as well before this of criminalising young people in the television news. I mean, there's always been a kind of sort of demonisation of certain groups of young people. Going back to sort of mods and rockers. But I mean, as neoliberalism has kind of completely torn away the welfare state, young from the 90s onwards, really young people, working class young people, as a whole, have been criminalised, and you've seen that, with increasing kind of items on, knife crime and so on, and always it's young people. And that the mask thing, I mean, you've seen that before, and the hoodies, the way they interview people. It's got a whole prehistory, so it was natural that they would continue that when this happened. They're institutionally, they can't engage with these issues.
Good, thank you very much. Yes.
I think quite an important aspect is sort of the disempowerment of people that they felt sort of, at least for a large part, a lot of frustration was rooted in the fact that they had nothing to lose. Like the fact that all these criminals, as they've been dubbed, like were willing to go out when they're 15, 16 and go out and risk arrest. Sort of, I was surprised that no one thought that everyone just seemed to portray them as just bad people. Whereas there's a reason why a lot of more privileged people weren't going out and risking arrest is because for these things because they just literally had nothing to lose, and there's it was like sort of all in mentality.
Thank you very much. We're going to take one more now. We will be doing some more stuff with the panel and then pushing it back out to the audience after that. So, did you want to?
Just to give another impression, maybe coming from Germany, where the riots were kind of portrayed pretty much as kids want to consume, and you had a lot of similar images like this going down on the sneakers and this kind of rhetoric with the images. So that was kind of the way to portray it. But there was another story, and I don't know about the person Douglas Howe. You know him, and probably everybody has an opinion. But it was a big thing. We translated the clip of this BBC interview, which was also done and taken off later, and it skyrocketed. I mean, there were 1 million people, I think, on YouTube watching it, and I think it skyrocketed on the one hand because it wasn't not a masked person speaking about the community history, and also taking on the interview and kind of taking on this policy of images and news rhetorics. And I just wanted to say that there is this other, you can get other views by now using YouTube clips of Sky and BBC, and it happened.
Good, thank you very much. Right, you four, you've just heard a lot from the people here, but are there any particular comments that were made that you'd like to pick up on that you think particularly ring true, or anything you disagree with?
Picking up on the Douglas Howe interview, he said something that was really stood out to me. He said if the government and the media had been listening to the youth, if they had been listening to the youth, they would have seen this coming, and I think that's very true. I think if they'd been listening, I think they've been kind of keeping the youth down here and doing what they can and expecting nothing to happen, and then it blew up. And someone else said that, yeah, it happened for various reasons. It wasn't just one thing. Everyone wasn't looting and rioting because of Matt Duggan. It was various reasons, and that's something that hasn't really been. I mean, I don't think you can analyse something like this. I mean, I was reading something in The Guardian where they're doing a report where they're analysing the consequences and the thoughts behind the riots, but this is something irrational. This is human. This is you know what I mean, where people, and referring to the looting as if it was animals, and all these studies and examinations that are going into this. And I mean, I read something in the Daily Mail that was like comparing it to some polar bear attack in you know what I mean, and saying the looters were illiterate people but somehow know how to use BlackBerries, and yeah, it was crazy, like the looters were illiterate but you know they managed to use these BlackBerries and Twitter, and it was really the reporting, it was as if these people were human, and as if do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I really touched on was that during the riots, she got a lot of underground reporting. It's like everyone was a reporter. If you had a VB or a Twitter account, it's like everyone became a reporter. And it's like we're taking the power away from Sky News and BBC News, because I actually saw people tweeting to Sky News, this is happening, this is happening. And loads of people were tweeting the same thing. But then I didn't really see it end up on TV. There was one point on Sky News, I think, they were filming Elton, and they kept saying anti-riot protesters and whatnot. But then I had cousins in Elton telling me that they were screaming out racist chants like ED and whatnot and chanting and that. People recording and put them on YouTube. And then the media really actually play on that. They kind of ignored it. They said they're just trying to protect the area, but they didn't really report, because my uncle's friend got rushed in Lucian. They've actually beat him up and whatnot, and no one really talked about the racial attacks in Lucian and in South London. No one really spoke about that. And also you see the borderline racist comments on TV, especially wasn't it Starkey? Like when he said that whites are becoming black, so I was thinking, wow, like, what is black? That's what I was thinking. And then he was talking about equating black with criminality and whatnot, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, someone's allowing him on TV, and the fact that they didn't even cut him out, they actually let him continue. And then this was a guy that we actually used in college. Like this is meant to be like a credit restoring him. He's coming on TV with these views and whatnot. Like, you know, it was, I was sitting down in my room because I only watched it. I think the Riots is, I watched, this is the most time I've watched as much news as possible. Like everyone I knew that really watched news. Everyone was at home on TV watching Sky News, watching BBC News. And then was it Newsnight? This guy came on TV randomly, started talking. I was thinking, and then he started, like, I'm a Jamaican as well, trying to say that, we ruin the English language and whatnot. They make slang and youth culture sound like it's some backward de-evolution phase of culture, but culture changes over time. They don't really show the diversity and whatnot. And they say they always go to one group of people and show them, because I went to school in Birmingham, I grew up with different kinds of people, and I knew like people, how people are going through, but they don't really touch on how people are feeling, they don't really touch, they just label us, we've got a group, they call them chavs, they call us yobs, hoodies and hoodlums and whatnot, and then obviously if you keep giving us these names, like so it shows it's self-fulfilling prophecy, you keep telling me that I'm a hood, right? You keep telling me I'm up to no good and I'm not going to be no good, and then you wonder why I lash out and I'm going to do something that you said I should do, and then you're talking, and then you're like coming back and saying, we never said this, we never said that. It's just, there's a hypocrisy on TV.